A few days after the wedding ceremony, the girl Robert Roberts was seeing on the side threw the ultrasound report in my face. She said Robert Roberts had found her the best hospital to stay in while pregnant, costing tens of thousands of dollars a month. A large diamond flashed in front of my eyes. Sarah, the one Rob gave you isn't as big as this one, is it? You can tell how much a man cares about you through many small details. He doesn't like you at all. If you weren't still useful to him, he wouldn't have married you. I was so lucky that the heavy storm prevented Robert Roberts and me from signing the papers. Robert Roberts pleaded with me to forgive him. At the same time, David Chen, my first love, was back. David Chen's eyes were red-rimmed, and he said he still loved me. Robert Roberts put the wedding ring on my finger. We kissed to the cheers of our friends and family. Someone in the audience dropped and broke a wine glass. When I looked over, only a retreating back remained. My heart skipped a beat. That back looked very much like David Chen, my ex-boyfriend who broke up with me out of the blue. For the rest of the wedding, I was distracted, my mind filled with that image. David Chen and I were together for 5 years, completely devoted to each other. I always thought he would be the one to put the wedding ring on my finger. Even now, I still couldn't understand why David Chen, who loved me so much, would suddenly break up with me. That night, Robert Roberts slept soundly beside me, but I remained wide awake. I used Robert Roberts's phone to message the wedding photographer, asking him to send the video he took today. I wanted to confirm if that person was indeed David Chen. The photographer said the video file was too large and it would take a while to receive. While waiting, someone with the username Chelly kept sending messages. Rob, I miss you. Why aren't you answering my calls? This morning, I really didn't want you to leave. You marrying her. I was so jealous I felt like I was going crazy. Will we still be like before? Can you come see me tomorrow? I have a surprise for you. Reading each line. It never felt the autumn in Riverwood so cold. I was about to scroll up through the message history. Robert Roberts rubbed his sleepy eyes, took the phone from my hand, glanced at it, and said casually, just a friend's younger sister. She's young and grew up without a father, so she easily develops crushes on older men. Don't take anything she says seriously. He put his arm around my waist. Go to sleep, wife. You must be tired today. Robert Roberts brushed off the ambiguous messages lightly, but it reminded me of something. Robert Roberts used to hate grapefruit, saying it was too bitter. About half a year ago, he started acting differently, buying grapefruit every time he passed a fruit stand. Maybe the bitter grapefruit tasted sweet when he thought of that person's name. During the years I was with Robert Roberts, he told me everything. Even voluntarily let me check his phone, saying he wanted to give me 100% sense of security. Just now, when he saw me holding his phone, his sleepiness instantly vanished. I caught a hint of panic in his expression, and it made me feel uneasy. Who was this Chelly? Who could make the usually composed Robert Roberts lose his composure? The next morning, Robert Roberts voluntarily handed me his phone. All the videos you wanted have been sent. He walked behind me and gently massaged my shoulders. I've already deleted her. I didn't delete her before because of her brother, but I worried you might overthink it, so it's better to delete her. Robert Roberts's gaze lingered in the mirror, observing my reaction. Maybe it was a woman's intuition, but the more he tried to appear open, the more suspicious he seemed, like he was trying to hide something. I watched the videos one by one. The person who had smashed the glass and left yesterday was indeed my ex-boyfriend, David Chen. How did he get in without an invitation? He had given me the silent treatment out of nowhere back then, and even broke up with me online. Surely, he wasn't here because he still had feelings for me and just wanted to have a self-pitying moment at the wedding? Robert Roberts's voice pulled my thoughts back. And Martha has breakfast ready. How about we go sign the papers after we eat? We had originally planned to sign the papers the day before yesterday, but it had been raining heavily, so we didn't go. Maybe it was a sign from above, telling me to carefully consider entering this marriage. I took Robert Roberts's hand. I don't think I can today. The hospital admitted several critical patients, and we're short-staffed. I need to go back for surgery. Robert Roberts frowned slightly. Who goes to work the day after their wedding? Robert Roberts had suggested more than once that I quit my job and he would support me. His family was wealthy. The generous gift his mother gave me alone was enough for me to be financially secure for years. But I didn't want to give up my dream. I wanted to be an excellent doctor like my mother. I smiled and reassured him. I promise. I'll take a vacation after things settle down. We can go on a honeymoon. Robert Roberts was still a little unhappy. He didn't eat breakfast and left in a hurry with his coat. At the hospital, the workspace across from mine, which had been vacant for a long time, had stuff on it. The photo frame looked especially familiar. Wasn't it the one David Chen and I DA'd together when we were dating? Did he sell the photo frame at a secondhand market? Sarah. Dr. Anderson knocked on the door. I looked up, and my gaze met the man standing behind her. David Chen's face and physique were hard to ignore anywhere he went. Compared to back then, he was even more captivating now. Wearing a clean white coat, his eyes behind gold-rimmed glasses were calm and steady, his face cool and detached. The hospital's title of Ice Prince would probably change hands soon. Dr. Anderson walked over. Sarah, David just joined. Can you show him around and help him get acquainted? Dr. Anderson especially loved to play matchmaker and had already tried to set up everyone single in the department. I hadn't revealed my relationship status, so she probably assumed I was still single after Dr. Anderson left. I placed a hospital map on David Chen's desk. David Chen's long fingers lightly tapped the booklet twice. Is Dr. Sarah always this cold to new colleagues? I wondered who was the one who gave the silent treatment back then. I lowered my head to organize patient charts. I'm busy. I have several surgeries this afternoon. I glanced at the young nurses whispering behind the door crack. If you really need someone to show you around, ask them. After finishing surgery, it was past 10 o'clock at night. I went to the convenience store and bought a hot dog to eat. A shadow fell over the table. David Chen looked at my food. Just eating this? His gaze shifted to my bare finger. I decided not to eat anymore. David Chen, what exactly do you want? Appearing at my wedding and now becoming my colleague, I didn't believe this was a coincidence. Someone tapped the glass window, interrupting David Chen. Robert Roberts stood outside the window, holding a takeaway container. I signaled Robert Roberts with my eyes to wait for me. I was waiting for David Chen's explanation. He suddenly smiled. I don't want anything. Your husband is waiting for you. I won't keep you any longer. Just like 3 years ago, he left without giving me any explanation. I grabbed my bag and left. Jerk. Just as I was about to ask Robert Roberts why he unusually brought me food, he hid the takeaway container behind his back. His expression was unnatural. It's cold. Let's eat out. I took the takeaway container from him. It's okay. I'm really hungry right now. The weather. Seeing that more than half of the meal was gone, I froze. It wasn't meant for me. A friend of mine is hospitalized at your hospital. I came to visit. What kind of friend was worth this much effort from him? Robert Roberts had never been very fond of my job and had hardly ever visited me at the hospital. He casually changed the subject. Was that your colleague sitting next to you just now? I replied in a joking tone. What else? You think he's my lover? Robert Roberts's facial muscles stiffened. He put his arm around my shoulder. All right, wife. You're hungry, right? Let's go eat something first. That night, Robert Roberts was gone for quite a while. I quietly got out of bed and followed him out. The living room was dimly lit. Robert Roberts was on the phone. He was rubbing his temples, talking to the person on the other end in a coaxing tone. Baby, will you listen to me this time? Good girl. There are plenty of hospitals better than downtown hospital. I'll find you the best private hospital. You know, my wife. Okay. I won't call her wife. It's inevitable to run into SAR at the same hospital. Now isn't the right time. Better to avoid unnecessary trouble. I had been cautiously testing the waters of our relationship. But now that I confirmed his heart had changed, even though I was prepared, it still hurt terribly. I struggled to steady my trembling body and returned to the bedroom. On the nightstand, Robert Roberts's phone lay silently. So that's why he used to voluntarily give me his phone to check he had another one. Faithful could be faked. A few days later, I was seeing patients in the clinic when a young girl aggressively threw a report in front of me. It was an ultrasound report. The name section read Chelsea Miller, 20 years old, very young, dressed in an expensive Chanel suit and carrying an LV bag, every gesture full of arrogance. So you're Sarah Miller? I looked you up online. Heavily filtered, I guess. You don't look as good as your photos in person. She scanned me up and down, finding a sense of superiority in my slightly worn white coat. Her eyes filled with disdain. She said Robert Roberts had found her the best hospital to stay in while pregnant, costing tens of thousands of dollars a month. A large diamond flashed in front of my eyes. Sarah, the one Rob gave you isn't as big as this one, is it? You can tell how much a man cares about you through many small details. He doesn't like you at all. If you weren't still useful to him, he wouldn't have married you. My hand tightened on the mouse. My professional training told me this was not the place for a catfight. Chelsea Miller just wanted to provoke me, and I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. Mom, please don't claim relationships that aren't there. If you're feeling unwell, you can register for an appointment. There are other patients waiting. Please step outside. Chelsea Miller was like lighting a dead firework, finding herself ignored. She sneered a few more times, and seeing that I wasn't reacting, she put her hands on her hips and left huffily. At noon, I went back to the office to rest and heard my name at the door. Really? Sarah Miller got married? That's not the point. The point is, her husband's mistress showed up pregnant. For a woman who's always cold-faced and only knows how to work, it's no wonder her husband cheated. She deserves it. As I pushed the door open, David Chen slammed a book down hard on the desk. Watch what you say. Do yourselves a favor, you say she's cold-faced? That's because people like you don't deserve a smile. The people gossiping about me instantly fell silent, looking even guiltier when they saw me enter. There are gossips everywhere, but seeing David Chen angry reminded me of back in college. He was my mother's student. Someone said I used that connection to force him to be with me, David Chen, and I happened to hear those words. He went up and grabbed the guy by the collar, scaring him into profusely apologizing. David Chen was my first love, the first person I ever liked, who once occupied all my joy and sorrow. That passionate first love ended miserably. It took me a long time to accept the fact that he left me. I went back to my workspace to write patient charts. David Chen pushed a note across. The note read, "Are you mad?" I threw the note in the trash can. Childish. As I said those two words, even I was surprised. Back when David Chen and I studied in the library, I always loved to pass him notes and disturb him. He would always call me childish. Yet he couldn't help but smile. The phone rang. Interrupting my memory, Robert Roberts' cheerful voice came through the phone. "Wife, I'm downstairs from your office. Let's go sign the papers during your lunch break. I have all the documents ready. You just need to come down." Robert Roberts leaned over to help me with my seatbelt. I pushed him away. The joy on his face hadn't faded. "What's wrong, wife?" He didn't know that while he waited for me with such happiness in those few minutes, I was crying hysterically in the hallway. I might be serious at work, but I'm still a human being with feelings. The two men who had hurt me, one became my colleague as if nothing had happened, and the other was happily asking me to go sign the papers. I couldn't understand why my happiness always came to such an abrupt end. I threw Chelsea Miller's ultrasound report at Robert Roberts, trying to have his cake and eat it too. "Robert Roberts, have you no shame?" Robert Roberts's knuckles holding the ultrasound report turned white. He glanced at it and threw it aside. "Wife, you know our family is one of the prominent families in Riverwood. It's inevitable for some girls to try to latch onto him looking for shortcuts." I felt like laughing. "Don't call me wife. Don't pretend you're innocent." I heard everything that night. Seeing he couldn't keep up the pretense, Robert Roberts started to play the sympathy card, slapping himself across the face. "I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It was just a moment of madness. I drank a bit too much that night. Every day since, I've regretted it." She kept harassing me and threatening me. If I didn't do what she wanted, she would come make a scene in front of you. I truly can't lose you, so I felt like I was at her mercy. Men's words are stubborn until the very end. Robert Roberts reached for my hand, his eyes red. "Sar, I'll handle all of this. Can you forgive me just this once? Let's go sign the papers and get back on track." "Are you saying you want me to marry you while you have a child on the way with another woman?" I said I'll handle it. I opened the car door. "I won't marry you. We're over." Robert Roberts grabbed me, closing the door before I could get out. "Sarah Miller, our relationship is this fragile. Just because of a little hiccup, you won't marry me?" I pushed him away. "Why is it your mistake? But I'm the one being tested. I'm so glad we didn't sign the papers." Robert Roberts leaned back against the seat, a cold laugh escaping his throat. "Sarah Miller, is this how ungrateful you are? If it weren't for me, would you even be here, throwing a tantrum at me?" Robert Roberts did save my life. 3 years ago, I was drowning in the pain of the breakup and my mother's passing, unable to cope. After a night of heavy drinking, I bought a plane ticket, wanting to travel and clear my head. I fell ill just a few days after going overseas. At that time, Robert Roberts and I were arguing over who got the last souvenir at a small stall. My vision went black, and I collapsed in front of Robert Roberts. When I woke up, Robert Roberts was sitting by the hospital bed, his eyes full of regret and self-blame. "I'm so sorry. I just wanted to strike up a conversation with you. I didn't expect." The doctor came over with the test results. Robert Roberts was more nervous than I was. Standing up to look at the report, his expression gradually turned serious. hesitating whether to give me the report. I'm a doctor myself, so I quickly spotted the key information among the words, malignant tumor. I couldn't afford the high treatment costs at the hospital overseas, so I planned to return home for treatment. Robert Roberts said he had looked into it, and my illness would be better treated overseas. He insisted I stay, busying himself contacting doctors for me. Robert Roberts was like my lifeline, staying by my side from the surgery to hospitalization and my recovery and discharge. I asked him why he was so kind to someone he had just met. He said, "Because it was love at first sight. Don't call me cheesy, but I think love at first sight is a romantic phrase." I gave him my bank card. "This is all my savings. I'll pay you back the rest when I earn it." Robert Roberts held the card between two fingers and handed it back to me. "There's another phrase, one-sided or unrequited. You didn't ask me to pay for your treatment. I did it willingly, so you don't owe me anything. But having said that, while there's no financial debt, there's a debt of gratitude." He said he would graduate in half a year and was too lonely being in a foreign land alone. He asked me to wait for him for half a year, considering it repaying the favor. Grateful for Robert Roberts's kindness and moved by his persistent pursuit, we started dating half a year after I returned home. 3 years ago, he said I didn't owe him. 3 years later, he called me ungrateful. Chelsea Miller said Robert Roberts married me because I was useful to him. Maybe from the start, he didn't really love me that much, but I honestly couldn't think of any way I could be useful to Robert Roberts. I wasn't feeling well, so I asked Dr. Anderson for half a day off. Not wanting to see Robert Roberts, I didn't go home but went to a convenience store to sit for a while. Robert Roberts sent me many messages. I didn't read any of them and blocked him. I leaned on the table. "Tears soak my sleeve, Dr. Sarah?" A young voice sounded beside me. It was the little girl I had done surgery on. She tugged at my sleeve and gave me a milk candy. "Sarah, are you okay? Don't be sad. Eating candy will make you happy." This was how I used to coax her into not being afraid of taking medicine. I couldn't refuse her kindness. I unwrapped the candy and put it in my mouth. The candy was sweet, but my heart remained bitter. A few minutes later, someone else tugged at my sleeve. I thought it was the same girl, but when I looked up, I saw David Chen holding a can of milk candies. The trick of using milk candy to coax children to take medicine was something I learned from him. We sat in silence, neither of us speaking first. Frankly, David Chen understood me better than Robert Roberts. When I'm sad, I don't want someone giving me lectures. I just need someone to quietly sit beside me. Robert Roberts, on the other hand, liked to give long speeches. When I told him I needed quiet, he started analyzing how my self-isolating personality was unhealthy. It was strange. They were both people I disliked, yet I was still comparing them in my head. "Sarah Miller, you won't sign the papers with me because you're seeing someone else, aren't you?" Robert Roberts appeared out of nowhere, stormed into the convenience store, and hit David Chen hard with a punch. "You, Sarah Miller, are the one pretending to be innocent, getting together with other men and then coming to demand an explanation from me." Robert Roberts grabbed the can of milk candies. David Chen instinctively shielded me. The can and candies all scattered on David Chen. "Sir, please calm down. Sarah Miller and I are just colleagues." More and more onlookers gathered, whispering and gossiping about the relationship between the three of us. The little girl who gave me candy and her mother also came over. As people pointed and whispered about me, they told them that Dr. Sarah was a good person and wouldn't behave improperly. Robert Roberts still wanted to fight, but the security guards arrived. He had to give up and left stony-faced. David Chen had a swollen eye and a small cut on his forehead. Regardless of our past issues, I got him involved today. "I'll go get disinfectant. Wait for me, Sarah Miller." David Chen called out to me and checked his watch. "I'll handle it myself later. You go back first. I have something to tell you." What David Chen wanted to say ultimately went unsaid. He got a call and rushed back to perform surgery on a patient. For the next 2 weeks, he was on a study exchange out of town with Dr. Anderson. I was busy selling the house and didn't look further into what he wanted to tell me. I calculated that my treatment cost over $1,000,000 back then. If I sold the house I bought last year, plus the money I had on hand, I could roughly pay off the debt owed to Robert Roberts. Paying off the debt and moving out was the purpose of returning home. Every piece of furniture, every part of the layout in this home, Robert Roberts and I chose together. I still remember when we moved in, we leaned against each other, imagining the future together. We would continue to love each other here, get married, have children, and be happy forever. The flowers in the vase were still the bouquet from when I left, now withered. Robert slumped on the sofa looking dejected, the table scattered with cigarette butts. I don't want your money. He looked utterly lost. That day, I spoke carelessly. I said something harsh. When I saw you with that man and you said you were breaking up with me, I was going crazy with sadness. I just lost control for a moment. He came and hugged me, as if trying to hold on to me with all his strength. I'm sorry, Sar. I really like you. These past few days without you, I feel drained of spirit, like the walking dead. I've been looking at my phone, hoping you'd reach out. I keep hallucinating hearing you enter the keypad code at the door. I wish you would appear in front of me the next second, for the sake of how good we were before. Can you forgive me just this once? Seeing him so dejected, having lost weight, my heart ached. I had loved him, and my instinct to care for him hadn't completely vanished. But I would absolutely not forgive a man who cheated. Once a cheater, always a cheater. I wouldn't repeat my mother's mistake. She forgave my cheating father time and time again, and that man even let his mistress move in while she was sick. Robert Roberts, from the moment you cheated, there's no possibility for us anymore. I pulled away from his embrace and placed the bank card on the table. I pulled my luggage to the door. Robert Roberts chased after me and knelt behind me. Sar, I truly know I was wrong. You're still in a fit of anger right now. I'll wait for you to think it over. As long as you can forgive me, I'll do anything. I didn't turn back to look at him and left through the door. The ride I ordered was canceled last minute, and it started pouring rain again. I had to take shelter at the bus stop. A taxi stopped at the bus stop. The car window rolled down, and Dr. Anderson waved at me. Sarah, are you waiting for a ride? Get in quickly. The person beside Dr. Anderson was David Chen. He looked at my wet hair and clothes, his eyes practically overflowing with concern. David Chen got out from the other side and helped me put my 2 suitcases in the trunk. Another hospital colleague was already in the front seat, so Dr. Anderson, David Chen, and I sat in the back. Afraid of crowding Dr. Anderson, I leaned a little closer to David Chen. Dr. Anderson used a tissue to wipe my hair. Drink some ginger tea when you get back. If you feel unwell, remember to ask for time off. Don't push yourself. Then she said to David Chen, Mark and I still need to go to Mercy Hospital for a meeting. You're not on call tonight, are you? Could you drop Sarah off? It's heavy for a young girl to carry 2 large suitcases. Okay? David Chen agreed quickly. Robert Roberts's place was only a few minutes from Mercy Hospital. Dr. Anderson and Mark got out, and the seat was less crowded. I realized I had been leaning too close. The rainwater from my clothes had wet David Chen's sleeve. Sorry, it's fine. Another long silence followed. I spoke first. I'm almost there. I can go the rest of the way myself. You don't need to bother. David Chen didn't reply. When we got out of the car, he followed me, holding an umbrella in one hand and carrying my luggage in the other. He said, Dr. Anderson told me to take you back. I can't disobey her instructions. When we reached the building downstairs, half of David Chen's shoulder was soaked. Rainwater plastered his hair to his forehead. Amid the fierce wind and rain, the strong wind broke the umbrella right before he closed it. Why don't you come up and sit for a while? Wait for the rain to stop before you leave. He helped me with my things, so I couldn't just let him leave in this terrible weather. My new place hadn't been cleaned yet. It was a mess, covered in dust. Let alone sitting. I didn't even know where to stand while I was changing clothes. David Chen swept the living room clean and boiled a pot of hot water on the stove in the kitchen. David Chen glanced at me and immediately looked away. I realized I was only wearing a slip and nothing underneath. My luggage was a mess, and my underwear was buried at the bottom. I was used to wearing slips like this at home and had forgotten for a moment. Even though we knew each other's bodies well, time has passed, and our current relationship still required politeness and distance. As I was about to go to the bedroom to change, I slipped on the wet floor and fell forward. David Chen immediately came to catch me, and I landed steadily in his arms. Through the thin slip in his wet shirt, I could clearly feel his rising body temperature. My ears instantly turned red, and I sprang away from David Chen's embrace. Whether it was because I was flustered or the floor was really too slippery, I didn't regain my balance. I slipped again, falling harder, and dragged David Chen down onto the sofa behind us. Any pretense of politeness and distance vanished at that moment. David Chen moved over slightly, his voice hoarse. Got a towel? Huh? I hadn't fully recovered, and the thought of whether he wanted to stay overnight had actually crossed my mind. David Chen got up. I want to wipe the floor. We both saw the lipstick mark left on his shoulder at the same time, and then both looked away. You stay put, I'll check the bathroom. The heavy storm beat against the windows, and the sound of boiling water came from the kitchen. David Chen poured 2 cups of hot water, then went to wipe the floor. The weather forecast said this storm would last until dawn. I found the hairdryer and told David Chen to dry his clothes first. That night, I slept in the bedroom, and David Chen slept on the sofa. When I woke up the next day, he was already gone. The entire place was clean, spotless. Basic necessities were all bought, and there were even a few potted plants on the patio. During my first year of residency, work was very tiring and stressful, and the dorm conditions were terrible. David Chen was also very busy, but he took time to help me find an apartment near the hospital. After working all day, he hardly rested, cleaning the apartment thoroughly so I could move in comfortably. Before he broke up with me out of the blue, David Chen was definitely the perfect boyfriend. So much so that for 3 whole years, I couldn't bring myself to accept that David Chen, who loved me so much, suddenly didn't want me anymore. I finished a 7-hour surgery and dragged my exhausted body home, seeing Robert Roberts waiting at the door with a bouquet. My body, which had just relaxed, tensed up again. These past few days, he had been calling me from different numbers. As soon as I heard it was him, I hung up immediately. With Robert Roberts's family background, it was easy for him to find out where I lived. "Sir," he said with a fawning smile, "don't hide from me anymore." Getting closer, I could see clearly that the bouquet he was holding was made of red money roses. "Robert Roberts, please don't do this." Ignoring the flowers he offered, I took out my key and opened the door. Robert Roberts didn't give up, shoving the bouquet into my arms. "Sir, why are you so heartless to me?" His tone became slightly resentful. "I saw your colleague take you home, and he only left this morning." I didn't feel like giving any unnecessary explanations. "Move." Robert Roberts grabbed my wrist, and the key fell to the ground. He pinned me against the wall. The difference in physical strength was too great, and I couldn't break free. "Sarah Miller, you're getting back together with your ex-boyfriend. So what about me? Am I just garbage in your eyes? Something you can just throw away?" I was merciless, staring at him coldly. "Yes, you are garbage. We've broken up. My business is none of yours." He looked at me angrily. "What if I insist on interfering? I'm not someone you can just call on and dismiss. Let go of me, or I'll call the police." Robert Roberts pressed down on the hand I used to reach for my phone. "Can you stop throwing a tantrum? My patience has limits too." Security guards ran out of the elevator and pulled Robert Roberts away. As soon as I saw Robert Roberts, I had messaged the building management, telling them someone was harassing residents. Robert Roberts started punching and kicking, but it was like tickling the 2 muscular security guards. The money roses scattered on the ground, blown by the autumn wind, looking like a red lake. The hospital held a free clinic event every 6 months. I didn't participate in the first half of the year, but it was my turn in the second half. David Chen was across from me, surrounded by a crowd of young women. The slightly older folks, the grandpas and grandmas, were lining up for the experienced doctors, so my side wasn't too busy. A woman wearing a mask stood in front of the table. I asked her if she felt unwell anywhere, but she didn't say anything, just stood there. I increasingly felt she looked familiar. By the time I realized, she grabbed my hair, pulled a fruit knife from her pocket, and forcefully stabbed towards me. "What kind of spell did you cast on Rob? He forced me to get an abortion. I'll make you pay with your life." Chelsea Miller swung the knife with all her might. My forearm was cut, and blood instantly soaked my white coat. The colleagues nearby saw how frantic Chelsea Miller was and didn't dare pull her away. Shouting for help, David Chen noticed the commotion, pushed through the crowd surrounding him, and ran over as fast as he could. David Chen immediately snatched the knife from Chelsea Miller's hand. Security also arrived and restrained Chelsea Miller. Chelsea Miller couldn't move and looked at me maliciously. "Sarah Miller, don't think you've won. Rob married you because you look like Eleanor. Without that face, you're nothing." Eleanor was Robert Roberts's sister, who had passed away many years ago. The first time I went to Robert Roberts's house to meet his parents, his mother saw me, her eyes welled up, and she called out Ellie. By rights, Robert Roberts and Eleanor were siblings, so they should have looked the most alike. I didn't resemble Robert Roberts at all, so how could I look like his sister? My forearm and shoulder were both cut, blood kept flowing out, and a colleague quickly helped me stop the bleeding. David Chen brought over the banner from the entrance to block the onlookers. He was a surgeon who had been in the operating room many times. But seeing the nasty wound on me, his eyes turned red. Chelsea Miller was taken away by the police. David Chen took me back to the hospital to treat the wound. He didn't look at me the whole way, just drove fast. The colleague who treated my wound told me that Dr. David was crying outside. I think Dr. David really cares about you. Our whole department knows Kate and Jen love to gossip. If they talked about you, Dr. David would be furious and scared them into silence. After my wound was treated, David Chen took me home. He took a bag from the trunk. Let's go. What's this? Weather stripping. I quickly found out what he needed the weather stripping for. David Chen carefully sealed the gaps in my windows and patio door. No wonder I always felt cold at home. The windows and doors were drafty. I originally planned to just give you the stuff to do it yourself, but your hand is injured now. David Chen looked around and saw that half of the curtain rod had fallen down. I'll go borrow a ladder. Half an hour later, David Chen returned with a ladder on his shoulder and a bag of groceries in his hand. An hour later, he had fixed the curtain rod and made a table full of tempting dishes. Dusk settled in, warm yellow light streamed down, and the smell of food filled the living room. It was unusually warm and cozy. David Chen served me food but barely ate himself. Only when I was nearly finished did he speak. Sarah Miller, the truth is, I haven't gone a day without thinking of you, without loving you, all these years. But I hurt you so deeply that saying these words feels disgusting even to myself. David Chen and I were together for 5 years and never once argued, because he was too good. So good that even when I wanted to intentionally throw a tantrum, he would indulge and humor me. He remembered every single word I said and always followed through. If I casually complained that a certain book was difficult to study, a few days later I would receive detailed notes and analysis for that book. Jewelry I glanced at on the street would become little surprises gifted to me. If I said I wanted to learn how to ride a bicycle in the middle of the night, he wouldn't think I was crazy. He would just bring his bike downstairs and wait for me. He understood my every look and took care of all my feelings. After we started working, we weren't at the same hospital, but he would rather sacrifice rest and ride the last bus home just to see me more often. He worried I was too tired from work and couldn't handle it, so every weekend he would cook a large table of delicious food to help me recover. He loved me very sincerely. In the years after we broke up, I actually couldn't bring myself to hate him. When I thought of him, I remembered his good qualities more. Sometimes love is more agonizing than hate. Only by forcing myself to hate him could I stop feeling sad. Later, I started a new relationship, got married to someone else, and imagined a future with him. Little by little, I erased the traces of David Chen's existence in my life. When David Chen said he had always loved me, I didn't know how to face him. I'm sorry, I was too weak back then. After saying that, David Chen went to clean up the dishes. I followed him to the kitchen, wanting to ask exactly what had happened back then. But David Chen's phone rang again at an inconvenient time that evening. Figuring he should be out of surgery by now, I wanted to call him but realized I didn't have his contact info. The next morning, I was woken up by a bombardment of calls. It was from the person who hadn't contacted me since my mother passed away. My father, Mr. Miller. Just as the last call ended, there was urgent knocking at the door. Mr. Miller had found my place. The man with graying temples hypocritically grabbed my hand. He was so close, yet he didn't notice my hand was still bandaged. Sir, I heard you had a wedding ceremony, but you didn't legalize the marriage with my son-in-law, Robert. Young couples shouldn't hold grudges overnight. How about we arrange a dinner with Robert's parents today and formalize the marriage with both families present? I didn't even need to think about it. Mr. Miller was a messenger sent by Robert Roberts. You said it yourself. We didn't sign the papers, so he's not your son-in-law. At my mom's funeral, you said in front of everyone that if I didn't let that woman be my stepmother, you'd pretend you didn't have a daughter. What kind of elder are you? I opened the door. Get out. Mr. Miller had a bad temper, not getting a pleasant reception from me. He started pointing at me and yelling, "You ungrateful daughter. The Roberts family is so wealthy, don't be unappreciative. If I hadn't made that poor kid, David, break up with you back then, would you have found a wealthy guy as good as Robert Roberts? You've gotten bold, relying on his affection for you to show a bad temper. You're marrying him. End of story." Mr. Miller dragged me outside. My wounds bled from the sudden movement. Let go of her. David Chen threw down what he was holding and ran over to stop Mr. Miller. If you don't stop, I'm calling the police. He held his phone tightly, anger spread in his eyes. Mr. Miller was a bully who backs down easily. Afraid David Chen would actually call the police, he let go of me. David Chen looked anxiously at my wound. "I'll treat it for you." I didn't move. "Explain yourself, Mr. Miller said he made you break up with me. Explain what that was all about." David Chen picked me up bridal carry. "Let's treat the wound first. I'll tell you everything. My good father didn't just mess up his own marriage. He also interfered in his daughter's relationship. 6 months before David Chen and I broke up, he was assisting in a surgery where the patient died despite rescue efforts. It was David Chen who delivered the death notification to the family. The family didn't dare provoke the influential lead surgeon at the hospital, so they harassed David Chen instead. David Chen's procedures during the surgery were standard and flawless, but the patient's family used the media to confuse things and spread rumors, causing David Chen a lot of trouble. They even targeted me, putting up protest signs outside my mother's hospital room, claiming the university professor's daughter's boyfriend was a murderer. That group was taken away by the police for education. But the matter wasn't over. One afternoon, that patient's father waited for me downstairs from my place with a bottle of sulfuric acid. I managed to avoid him in time, preventing him from succeeding. Ultimately, the patient's father was sentenced to prison. I didn't resent David Chen because of this incident. It was all unwarranted disaster. But Mr. Miller went to David Chen and forced him to break up with me. The patient's father threatened to ruin my family after getting out of prison. The patient's mother and other relatives were waiting for me at the hospital entrance every day. I didn't know when this situation would end. I was afraid they would hurt you. They could ruin my career. But they absolutely couldn't ruin you. Those people harassed David Chen mostly because they wanted money. When they didn't get the money, they got tired after causing trouble for a few months and stopped bothering David Chen. As for that patient's father, he got into a car accident the day he was released from prison and couldn't be saved. David Chen gently blew on it while picking away the gauze stuck to the wound. After things settled down, I wanted to find you, but I couldn't. The next time I heard about you, you were already with someone else. I was too late. Whether it was because the wound hurt too much or the memories were too painful, I couldn't help but sob. Why were you so foolish? I never felt you were a burden. You came to my wedding and became my colleague. Why didn't you tell me these things sooner? David Chen wiped the tears from my cheeks. I admit I was selfish. I wanted to see how beautiful Sarah Miller looked in a wedding dress. Even if the person standing beside you wasn't me, becoming colleagues was a coincidence. I only found out you worked there on my first day. These words sound like I'm trying to gain sympathy. But right now, I want to be selfish for once. I want to stay by your side. During the 2 months I was recovering from injury, Mr. and Mrs. Roberts visited me once, Sar. Blame your Uncle John and me for being slow to realize Robert Roberts had done so many wrong things. Mrs. Roberts was a kind woman and spoke very gently. From her, I learned that Robert Roberts was not their biological son but adopted. Robert Roberts knew this and had always resented it, fearing Mr. and Mrs. Roberts would mind the lack of biological connection and wouldn't leave the family fortune to him. I looked very much like their deceased daughter, Eleanor. The first time Robert Roberts saw me, he had ill intentions. He thought if he married me, Mr. and Mrs. Roberts, missing their daughter dearly, would surely cherish me like their own daughter. Then he would have a better chance of getting the family fortune. As Robert Roberts expected, Mr. and Mrs. Roberts liked me very much the moment they saw me. That's why Robert Roberts pursued me relentlessly and insisted we sign the papers. He came home drunk, questioned if we considered him our real son, crying and laughing, and said these things. A wave of nausea surged in my stomach. This relationship with Robert Roberts was a joke. Love at first sight? It was nothing but him approaching me with a purpose. He had been pretending for so long, doing such a good job of it. I was almost completely fooled by him. Mrs. Roberts didn't ask me to return the generous gift or the other presents she had given me, Sar. Ultimately, it's the Roberts family who owes you. Keep the things. Since Mrs. Roberts said this, she wouldn't accept me returning the gifts. I planned to hire someone to send them back to the Roberts family another day. After Mr. and Mrs. Roberts left, I tittied up and got ready to go out. I had agreed to go out for dinner with David Chen. My right hand was injured, making many things difficult. When David Chen had free time, he would turn into like a fairy helper, coming to my place to cook and clean. The condition he proposed for repaying the favor was for me to treat him to dinner. I walked to the window to see if David Chen's car was there, in the snowy lot downstairs. He had drawn a giant heart. David Chen stood in the center of the heart and made a heart shape with his hands. I called him Goofball. He was slightly out of breath and said with a smile, "Sarah Miller, it's starting to snow." It took over a year for my hand to recover before I could operate again. The first patient I operated on was Robert Roberts. This surgery was supposed to be done by Dr. Anderson, but Dr. Anderson was temporarily unwell, and it was changed to me. The surgery was successful. Anesthesia hadn't worn off yet, and Robert Roberts was muttering my name indistinctly. The nurse assigned to his care told me that after waking up, Robert Roberts always liked to talk to her. Robert Sterling invested heavily to build a music fountain. Everyone said it was a proposal surprise prepared for his future wife. My heart was full of expectation, believing that 7 years of waiting would finally yield a result, but unexpectedly, I ended up seeing the scene of him kneeling before another girl on the city trending list. Her social media account was flooded with envious comments and well wishes. I rushed frantically to the scene, wanting an explanation. Instead, he impatiently shoved me away, looking down at me. "Just fulfilling a young girl's fantasy. That's all, Sophia. Be good. Don't be unreasonable." I sat there, fallen into the cold fountain pool, watching them walk away hand in hand, and finally dialed my father's number. "Dad, I want to come home," on the other end of the line. Dad's voice instantly became choked up. "Sophie, you finally agreed to come back. You're the only daughter I have left. My mother worried about you when she passed, but you insisted on staying out of town. If something really happened to you, how could I explain it to your mother?" Hearing Dad say that, my nose stung with emotion. "It's good that you've come around. When are you planning to come back? That David keeps asking about you." Coming out of the fountain pool, the late autumn wind made me sneeze. "Soon. I just need to finalize the work handover here. Maybe about a week." After hanging up, I opened a ticket booking app and bought a flight back to Evergreen Harbor. "Oh my God, Robert, the little fish you gave me died." A scream startled me. Looking up, it was Robert Sterling and that girl again. The girl was holding a delicate crystal bottle, teary-eyed, looking at a dead red betta fish floating in the fountain pool. My attention had been entirely on Robert Sterling just now. I hadn't noticed this girl now. Looking closely, I realized she was Lily Davis, a student Robert Sterling had been sponsoring, and she was about to join the company as the CEO's secretary. Her application profile had been in my hands for barely a second before Robert Sterling took it, saying he needed to review it himself. "This was my favorite little fish." She pouted. "Sophia is jealous that Robert is so good to me. But she shouldn't have been so cruel to a little fish. How could you be so mean?" Robert Sterling held Lily Davis tightly, who was trying to get into the water to retrieve the fish, then turned to look at me with a hint of disappointment. "I thought you were just being unreasonable. But when did you become so malicious?" "Sophia, be good. Go down and get the fish." I followed their gaze. A betta fish was floating belly up in the fountain pool. I must have accidentally crushed it when he pushed me down. I quietly watched Robert Sterling softly comfort the teary-eyed Lily Davis, even promising to have another one flown in for her as soon as possible. My wet clothes clung to my skin. The cold wind made me even colder. My heart felt an endless chill. When I didn't respond, his gaze turned to me. Full of confusion, he couldn't understand why I, who was always so compliant, was acting so strangely today. Water was still dripping from my hair. He met my indifferent gaze and frowned. I knew he didn't like me when I wasn't obedient. He draped his suit jacket over Lily Davis's shoulders and sighed at me, a look of helplessness on his face. "Sophie, Lily is innocent. The only things she really cares about are these small animals. Go get it out and bury it properly, and I'll buy you that set of jewelry you liked." Hearing this, I suddenly wanted to laugh. I had my eye on a ring. It wasn't expensive, far less than the cost of flying a betta fish in for Lily Davis. I only loved the meaning behind the ring. Eternal, long-lasting love. It hinted at it many times, both directly and indirectly. Every time, Robert Sterling would gently kiss my forehead and tell me, "This ring is too cheap. It's not something the future Mrs. Sterling should wear." Every time he said that, I would shyly pretend to scold him for spending too much. Looking back now, whether the ring was cheap or not was never the point. The point was, he never intended to marry me, and of course, Mrs. Sterling isn't me. Such a cheap ring truly wasn't fit for his future wife. After standing in the cold wind for half the evening, my head felt heavy. Standing alone outside the hospital, I sighed helplessly. The moment Robert Sterling left with Lily Davis, He sent me a digital payment. It's too late. Lily doesn't know how to get a taxi. I'll take her back first. You be good and get a taxi home, check in, see a doctor, tests, getting in for. I went through the whole process by myself. Lying on the hospital bed with a splitting headache, closing my eyes brought back only memories of my time with Robert Sterling. That year, I also got sick in the middle of the night, and he rushed back from out of town just to take me to the hospital. Seeing his red-rimmed eyes from lack of sleep, I tenderly stroked his face. He just gently held my hand and said, "If you're not healthy and well, what's the point of me doing all this business?" Drowsily, my phone rang. It was a text message from Robert Sterling. Propping myself up with effort, I fumbled for my phone in my bag. The bright glare from the screen made my eyes sting. "Why aren't you back yet? Lily's place lost power, and she's afraid of the dark, so I brought her back here first. When you come back, pick up some cold medicine for me. Lily was in the cold wind tonight, and I'm worried she'll get sick." Reading those two messages, I clenched my phone without realizing it. I didn't reply. I raised my hand, hesitated for a moment, then tapped clear chat history. It was morning when I got home from the hospital, exhausted. I went upstairs to the master bedroom. As soon as I opened the door, a sickeningly sweet, heavy scent hit me, making me want to vomit. I frowned and switched on the wall light. The sudden brightness woke the two sleeping figures. "Ah." Lily Davis let out a dramatic shriek and affectedly pulled the thin blanket over her body, which was covered in red marks. The white fleece blanket made the red marks even more vivid. My breath hitched, and I instinctively clutched the corner of my clothes. Robert Sterling froze for a moment, then shook his head and instantly sobered up. He pursed his lips, a rare look of guilt on his face. Finally, he looked away and just said, "Lily is afraid of the dark. So I kept her company for a bit." I let out a short laugh. Some keeping company. A man and a woman, naked, sleeping wrapped around each other. He, Robert Sterling, had the nerve to say something even a 3-year-old wouldn't believe. That laugh seemed to provoke Robert Sterling. His face instantly darkened. "Sophia, what about you? You didn't come back all night, didn't reply to messages. Do you have any idea how worried I was about you? You're being very disobedient today." "Yes, I'm not being obedient, because being a good girl that Robert Sterling was satisfied with was truly exhausting." I slowly walked further into the room, took off my coat that was halfway dry from my body heat, and said calmly, "Nowhere special. I fell in the water, didn't want to catch pneumonia and become a complete idiot, so I went to the hospital." Hearing what I said, Lily Davis started to cry dramatically. "It's all my fault. If Robert hadn't insisted on building me that fountain, Sophia wouldn't have fallen in the water." Robert Sterling just gently stroked her head to comfort her. I gave a sarcastic little smile and walked over to the closet to get my clothes. As I got closer, I saw a bundle of white dress fabric carelessly tossed in the corner. I froze for a moment, then quickly walked over and picked up the fabric. Pearls scattered everywhere, and large sections of lace were ripped. My body trembled uncontrollably. I held up the ruined wedding dress in my hands and glared at the two of them. "Who did this?" Lily Davis giggled. "Robert said he wanted to see me in a wedding dress, and wouldn't you know it, there was one right in the closet, so I put it on for him." Even though this wedding dress was outdated and didn't show off my figure at all, Robert still couldn't resist. "And he just saying this." Lily Davis shyly raised her hand and lightly hit the man beside her. "It's all your fault. I told you to be gentle. Look, you've ruined Sophia's things." I clenched my fists, my eyes burning red, and fiercely questioned Robert Sterling. "How dare you let her wear my things? That was the wedding dress my mother left for me." My head was buzzing, and I couldn't hold back the tears any longer. I grabbed the vase nearby and threw it at them. A fierce look flashed in Robert Sterling's eyes. He raised his hand to shield Lily Davis. "Sophia, don't go too far." Saying that, he got up, put on a bathrobe, and walked towards me. A white tote bag appeared in front of me. "Here, the jewelry you always wanted. I had someone order it overnight. As for wedding dresses, you want as many as you like? I'll have them ordered. Stop making a scene." Hearing Robert Sterling's words, I tilted my head back and laughed. This wedding dress was the one my mother wore when she got married. She cherished and preserved it her entire life, until the very end, the day my mother gave me the wedding dress. Her eyes were red as she told me, "My Sophie is so beautiful. It's a shame I wasn't strong enough. I won't live to see the day my darling gets married. Let this wedding dress be my mother's best wishes for you. I hope our Sophie finds a man who will cherish her and hold her in the palm of his hand." I lowered my head and stared at the plainly packaged tote bag in front of me. Suddenly, I felt a surge of self-loathing for always being the obedient girl for Robert Sterling. Thinking this, I snatched up the tote bag and threw it away. Sophia? Robert Sterling's eyes were red with rage, and the veins in his forehead throbbed uncontrollably. Sophia, what are you doing? Robert knew you liked this ring and had someone bring it over overnight. How could you do that? Lily Davis lightly scurried off the bed and shielded Robert Sterling. The deep V-neck satin nightgown didn't hide the red marks on her chest, like a silent declaration. I curved my lips into a sneer, looking at her mockingly. If you want it, you can have it. Junk, it suits you perfectly. Gathering the few clothes I had, I ran to the guest room and threw myself onto the soft big bed. There wasn't much luggage to pack. Most of the things in the house were bought by Robert Sterling. He was used to dressing me the way he liked. Occasionally, I would want to buy things I liked, but whenever he saw them, he would frown and tell me to change, and always add, Sophia, be good, because I loved him, and selfishly wanted him to love me a little more. I was willing to change myself to suit his preferences. Burying my face in the soft bedding, I rubbed my sore, puffy eyes. When Lily Davis posted her confession video, I saw another update. It was an impressively large ruby diamond ring, almost ridiculously ostentatious. She wrote, "My brother said it's a worthless stone and told me to wear it for fun. I don't really understand. What do you guys think?" The envious comments seemed to spill off the screen. Someone even explained the ring's origin. It was the ring Prince Charles used to propose to his wife. It was auctioned for $40 million. I couldn't forget the feeling of icy coldness that washed over me when I saw that post. Colder than being in the water in the biting wind. The sound of the doorknob turning came, and I quickly wiped away the tears from my eyes. Robert Sterling walked over and pulled me off the bed. "Sophie, you're not yourself today. Are you still not feeling well?" I struggled away from his touch, turning my head, unwilling to face him. Robert Sterling sighed and rubbed my hair. "Sophie, you're always so good. Don't overthink things. I owe this to Lily. Once I've settled things, I'll send her back. The company's anniversary gala is in a few days. I'll have them send over the latest season's evening gowns for you to choose from. Stay in the guest room for a few days. Once she's gone, the master bedroom will be yours again." Before, hearing him coax me so gently, I would soften up within 3 sentences. But now, hearing his voice, all I felt was growing weariness. Downstairs, there was the sound of glass shattering and Lily Davis's startled cry. It was clearly intentional. But Robert Sterling still rushed downstairs as soon as he heard the noise. I stuffed my clothes into a suitcase and got up to draft my resignation letter. When I got to the office, I took my resignation letter to HR for a signature, but the HR manager looked at it and awkwardly handed the letter back. "Sophia, you're the CEO's secretary. This needs the CEO's approval." I frowned, before I could discuss it further with the HR manager. Robert Sterling walked in with Lily Davis. His confused gaze swept between us. "What are you doing here?" "Approving what?" Before the HR manager could answer, I quickly replied, "Nothing much. Lily is the new secretary. We were just discussing who would train her." Robert Sterling seemed skeptical. He scrutinized me for a moment before pushing Lily Davis towards me. "You've always been the CEO's secretary, so of course you'll train her." Walking down the office corridor with Lily Davis, she giggled, "I'm not feeling well today, so I probably won't be able to learn anything. You can blame Robert. He was all over me last night and wore me out." I stood ahead indifferent, not wanting to spare her a glance. "If you're not feeling well, ask Robert Sterling for time off. I don't have time to train you." Lily Davis persistently walked up to me, tilted her head back proudly, exposing her fair neck, practically flaunting all the red marks on her body. "So what if you've been with him for 7 years? As soon as I showed up, everything you had became mine. You're nothing but a substitute." I let out a little laugh. "Ms. Davis, if I'm a substitute, what are you?" "The photo on Mr. Sterling's office desk certainly isn't you, is it?" That's right. There had always been a photo frame on Robert Sterling's office desk. It was a girl standing under a tree in a white dress, seen from behind. I'd looked at that back before and thought it resembled me, but I was certain I'd never taken that photo. I'd tried asking Robert Sterling who she was, but each time he would just coldly tell me to mind my own business. A flicker of jealousy crossed Lily Davis's eyes when she heard my words, but she recovered in an instant. "I'm different from you. I'm Robert's savior." Something suddenly occurred to me. I turned to Lily Davis. I took out my resignation letter and waved it in front of her. "Since you like him so much, I'll step aside and leave him to you." As long as you can get him to sign this resignation, I'll give you my position. Lily Davis looked at me skeptically for a while, then reached out and snatched the resignation letter. Once it's signed, get out. I don't know how Lily Davis managed to get Robert Sterling to sign it. The next day, I received the resignation report signed directly by the CEO. For the past few days, intending to see things through, I wanted to hand over my duties to Lily Davis, but counting on Robert Sterling's indulgence, she complained of headaches or leg pain every single day. I watched Lily Davis, who was acting pampered in the CEO's office, with a cold smile. I wondered if Robert Sterling would regret hiring such a troublesome person after I left. Robert Sterling took a beautifully packaged gift box from a drawer in his office desk and handed it to me. Your dress for the gala tonight. Lily Davis looked at the gift box and suddenly pouted. Hey Robert is playing favorites. He didn't even get one for me. Robert Sterling smiled helplessly, got up, walked to Lily Davis's side, and ruffled her hair. I'll take you to a store to pick one out later. Hearing Robert Sterling's words, Lily Davis instantly brightened up and didn't forget to shoot me a provocative look. I curled my lips in a sarcastic smile, remembering what he had said to me a few days ago. But it didn't matter. I had a flight tonight and wasn't planning on attending the gala anyway. While Robert Sterling took Lily Davis to buy her dress, I went back to the villa, grabbed my luggage, and headed straight for the airport. Before boarding the plane, I received a short video from a colleague. Sophia, does the CEO know you resigned? He was furious at the gala. I opened the video. The gala venue, which should have been lively, was eerily silent. Robert Sterling sat in a prominent seat, his face grim, holding a report. The HR manager beside him was constantly wiping away cold sweat. Before turning off my phone, I casually replied to my colleague. He signed it himself. How could he not know? The plane slowly took off. Watching Metropolis City recede below me, my heart felt incredibly peaceful. Robert Sterling, we'll never see each other again. Leaving the airport, the mild, spring-like breeze of Evergreen Harbor greeted me, instantly washing away my fatigue. Seeing the man leaning against the car, I stopped short. Dragging my suitcase, I slowly walked over to him, scratching my head with an awkward smile. Why are you here? Where's my dad? The man had eyes that were soft and gentle, like peach blossoms. Hearing my question, the tenderness in his eyes instantly shattered like a mirror, revealing endless grievance and vulnerability. No, not at all. Don't misunderstand. Dad's call came through just then. I quickly answered and heard his bustling, lively voice on the other end. Sophie? You landed, right? Did you see that, David? Dad's making a feast for you at home, so I asked him to pick you up. Come straight back once you meet up. I looked at David Peterson, who was putting my suitcase in the trunk, and smiled. Got him. We're coming back now. After hanging up, I saw that Robert Sterling had called me over 30 times with missed calls during the past few hours, interspersed with dozens of text messages. Without exception, they were all asking what kind of tantrum I was throwing. I pursed my lips and cleared all the messages with one tap. Looking up, I saw David Peterson's slightly worried eyes. I smiled and opened the car door. Let's go. Hurry home, I'm starving. After getting in the car, David Peterson seemed to sense my low spirits. He turned around and produced a cup of bubble tea, handing it to me. Your favorite jasmine milk tea, warm with 70% sugar. Looking at the bubble tea in my hand, my eyes suddenly welled up with warmth, and tears streamed down uncontrollably. My crying startled David Peterson quite a bit. He was instantly flustered, fumbling to hand me tissues and scratching his head, clearly at a loss. No. If you don't like it, we won't drink it. Please don't cry. Seeing his panic, I burst out laughing again, just feeling a bit sentimental returning home, that's all. I quietly observed David Peterson, who was focused on driving. I noticed that after a few years apart, his demeanor had become much more mature and steady. Our families were old friends, and David Peterson and I grew up together. Later, he went abroad for study, and I went to university in Metropolis City. It was that year, while I was in university, that I met Robert Sterling, who had returned to give a speech as a distinguished alumnus. His aloof demeanor made him unforgettable to me. Later, during a summer internship, I was intentionally made things difficult for Robert Sterling, as a partner of the company where I interned, stepped in and helped me out at just the right moment. My admiration for him reached its peak. After graduation, I was determined to stay in Metropolis City, refusing to listen to anyone. When David Peterson heard about this back then, He rushed back to the country overnight to drag me back home. He, who was always good-tempered, got really angry at me for the first time, and said quite a few bad things about Robert Sterling during that time. Focused solely on Robert Sterling, I naturally couldn't stand hearing that. So, after a huge fight with David Peterson, I blocked him, and that block lasted for 3 years. During those 3 years, I would occasionally go home to see Dad, but I never saw him again. Dad said their family had moved away. I thought he would never want to speak to me again. The car slowly drove into the neighborhood. Dad had been waiting at the front door for a long time. Seeing Dad, I felt a sense of peace deep down in my heart. Quick, quick. The food is just ready. We're waiting for my precious daughter to come home, under the warm light. The food was delicious in color, aroma, and taste. The family sat together, happy and harmonious. I didn't know how long it had been since I felt such a warm, cozy moment. Ever since Lily Davis arrived in Metropolis City, Robert Sterling's attention had been entirely focused on her. He spent less and less time having meals with me. My thoughts drifted away. I silently poked at my food. Dad noticed I was distracted and asked cautiously, "Sophie, this time you're back. Are you leaving again?" I paused, then put a piece of fish in Dad's bowl, smiling. "I'm not leaving. Not ever again. I'll stay by your side forever, Dad." Tears welled up in Dad's cloudy eyes. "It's good you're not leaving. The house will finally feel lively again." Hearing Dad say that, my heart ached. David Peterson opened the fruit wine and poured a glass for each of us. "All right. Today is a day for reunion. Let's raise a glass to celebrate Sophie coming home. You've been away for so long. You must not know how much Evergreen Harbor has changed." Dad nodded along. Yes. Later, when David has time, he can take you around to see places." I looked up at David Peterson. His eyes, soft and gentle like peach blossoms, were fixed on me, illuminated by the warm yellow light. They seemed even more tender. I quickly looked away, trying to calm my suddenly nervous feelings. Since Dad suggested David Peterson show me around last time we had dinner, he's been coming over every few days. Watching David Peterson chatting happily with Dad in the living room, I had a fleeting sense of déjà vu. "David Peterson, you're out and about every day. Is your company's business doing that badly?" That single sentence really annoyed David Peterson. "I came to see you today about something important, all right?" Saying that, he pushed a beautifully wrapped gift bag towards me. "On the 30th, there's a charity auction gala. I'd like you to be my date." Before I could refuse, David Peterson pulled out his trump card. Someone blocked me for 3 years for no reason, and when I heard someone was coming home, I hurried right over to pick her up. Even if I don't get credit, I put in the effort. If someone has any conscience left, I don't think they'd have the heart to refuse me. I was speechless for a moment, seeing David Peterson staring at me with those wide, peach blossom eyes. A sense of guilt welled up inside me. Taking the evening gown, I agreed to the task. It had been some time since I got home, but Robert Sterling still hadn't given up looking for me. To avoid being bothered, I added his number directly to my blacklist. Former colleagues I was friendly with also contacted me, but mostly they were complaining endlessly. "Sophia, we're so not used to you being gone. You wouldn't believe it. The new CEO's secretary doesn't know how to do anything except act spoiled. She messes up the assignments. It's chaos. Mr. Sterling has already been in a bad mood lately, and she gives out the wrong assignments. We do the wrong work. Every meeting is like a trial from hell." I sighed helplessly. What could I do? That's just how Robert Sterling spoils her. Before I knew it, the 30th arrived. David Peterson came to my place early, saying he wanted to take me to a salon for a makeover. My refusal was futile, and he practically pushed me into the car. I have to say, David Peterson really understood my taste. A watery blue mermaid dress made my figure look even taller and more slender. Putting on the evening gown, I twirled happily in front of David Peterson. "How do I look?" A flash of amazement crossed his eyes. Then he propped his chin on his hand and replied seriously, "My taste, as always, is impeccable." I laughed at his narcissism. Just as I was about to reply, a strong tug pulled me into an embrace. The familiar scent of cigarettes filled my nostrils. My heart sank, and I immediately struggled out of his arms. David Peterson shielded me, his gaze cold as he appraised Robert Sterling. "Sophia, you've been hard to find." Robert Sterling's tone was icy, revealing suppressed rage. I looked at Robert Sterling. In just 3 weeks, he looked much more haggard, with clear dark circles under his eyes. Lily Davis, standing nearby, immediately stepped forward and linked arms with Robert Sterling, glaring at me hatefully, her jealousy uncontrollable. Some people, already have a boyfriend but still try to seduce other people's boyfriends. How shameless. I held back David Peterson, who looked furious and was about to charge forward. I shook my head at him and soothingly hooked my pinky finger around his. I turned to Lily Davis and spoke with a hint of disdain. Some people knowingly step into relationships. Fine. But I've even made space for you, and you still can't keep your man in line? How pathetic. That sentence hit a nerve with Lily Davis. Her eyes turned red with anger, and she immediately pouted, shaking Robert Sterling's arm. Robert, look at her. However, this time Robert Sterling didn't respond to her. Instead, he stared intently at my finger linked with David Peterson's, his face grim. Sophia, don't forget who you are, be good and come back with me. I can overlook this little escape of yours. I chuckled. My identity? What identity? An employee of Sterling Corp? Mr. Sterling, don't forget, you personally signed my resignation letter. How could that be fake? Speaking of this, Robert Sterling shot a sharp glare at Lily Davis, who was still holding on to him. Lily Davis's face went pale with fright. She instantly let go and shrank back, afraid to speak. David Peterson put his arm around my shoulder, his eyes warning them. Mr. Sterling, don't forget, this is Evergreen Harbor, not your territory in Metropolis City. Coming all this way, you wouldn't want to spend a couple of days locked up, would you? Saying that, David Peterson pulled me and turned to leave. The sound of glass shattering came from behind. Lily Davis immediately started screaming with a tearful voice. Robert, you're bleeding. I was about to turn my head to look, but David Peterson gently turned my face back towards him. What's there to see? David Peterson looked at me, slightly gritting his teeth. You blocked me for 3 years because of that man. Looking at the man's sulking face in front of me, I couldn't resist reaching out and poking it. I never knew before that David Peterson held grudges like this. At the auction gala, valuable items were brought onto the display one by one. David Peterson quietly asked if there was anything I wanted. I just shook my head, uninterested. 2 pairs of eyes on my side were fixed on me, making me feel completely on edge, wishing I could leave that place immediately. The auction continued. A sapphire blue diamond ring was brought onto the table, and my eyes lit up instantly. David Peterson caught my reaction perfectly and immediately raised his paddle. 30 million. I snapped back to reality and quickly raised my hand to stop him. Over there, Robert Sterling saw David Peterson raise his paddle and also started calling out bids. The 2 men competed fiercely, neither backing down. Seeing the price climb higher and higher, I desperately tried to pull down David Peterson's hand holding the paddle, but he wouldn't listen to me at all, determined to outbid Robert Sterling to the end. Finally, I had to feign anger. If you don't stop, I won't talk to you ever again. David Peterson reluctantly put down his paddle, letting the ring go. In the end, Robert Sterling won the bid for the ring at a high price of 80 million. Lily Davis puffed out her chest proudly. She seemed to be already imagining the ring on her own finger. The auction gala ended. David Peterson went to get the car. Robert Sterling walked up to me and held up the ring. I know you always wanted a ring. I wasn't ready last time, which made you angry. This one is for you to make up for it. Please don't be mad, Sophie. Lily Davis hadn't expected the ring Robert Sterling bid so high for wouldn't be for her. Her face instantly turned red with anger. She looked at me, her face contorted with rage. But with Robert Sterling present, she didn't dare act out. I massaged my slightly aching temples and refused his ring. Robert Sterling, I think you should understand. We are over. The moment you proposed to Lily Davis, it was over between us. Robert Sterling froze for a moment. His usually indifferent tone held a hint of urgency. Who said I proposed? Didn't I tell you then that I was just fulfilling her wish? Saying that, he rubbed his temples in frustration. Sophie, Lily Davis's parents saved me many years ago when I was out of town discussing a project. That's why I paid her extra attention. A suit jacket was draped over my shoulders. It was David Peterson, who had returned with the car. He scrutinized Robert Sterling for a while, then chuckled softly as if H just remembered something amusing. You said Lily Davis's parents saved you. David Peterson's gaze turned to Lily Davis, full of amusement. Really? If I'm not mistaken, it was 10 years ago. The Scenic Area Development Project in Willow Creek, wasn't it? I looked up at David Peterson in surprise. Robert Sterling was equally surprised. He frowned and looked at David Peterson warily. How do you know that? Lily Davis's face instantly turned deathly pale, and she took a large step back. David Peterson didn't answer him. Instead, he turned and ruffled my hair. Look at you, of all people to save. You had to save this jerk. I paused, and memories instantly flooded back. 10 years ago, my grandmother passed away, and I went back to our hometown with my parents for the funeral. When my grandmother was alive, she was very fond of David Peterson, so he came back with us after the funeral. David Peterson and I found a fainting teenager on the side of the road. David Peterson couldn't refuse me, so he took him to the hospital with me. After everything was settled, my parents urged us to head home, so we left the hospital without waiting for the teenager to wake up. As for how he got entangled with Lily Davis's parents, we had no idea. David Peterson chuckled, sighing, Robert Sterling, for all the power you wield in the business world, I can't believe you ended up being completely fooled by a woman. The moment the truth was revealed, Robert Sterling's tall figure suddenly swayed. As if he couldn't stand steady, he looked at me, his face pale, murmuring repeatedly, It was you all along, the silhouette on the office desk, that was you too, Sophie. I'm sorry, I'm despicable. I'm so sorry. Saying this, he took 2 steps forward, wanting to pull me into his arms. But David Peterson shoved him away. Robert Sterling, someone who can't even figure out who his savior is. What right do you have to say you love her? My mind was in a whirl. Robert Sterling said he took that photo secretly. I liked blue. But just because of that secretly taken photo of my back, Robert Sterling forced me to wear white for 7 years. I suddenly remembered. I had pursued him for a long time back then, but he never agreed. Later, I was delivering documents to him, waiting under a tree, when he came out of the hotel, suddenly hugged me tight, and asked if I would go out with him. That day, I was wearing a white dress, so at that moment, he wasn't moved by my persistence at all. Instead, through my silhouette, he saw the person in his dreams. Thinking about this, I suddenly didn't know whether to cry or laugh. It turned out I had been my own substitute all along. After that day, Robert Sterling stayed camped outside my house. Dad sighed helplessly through the window. Sophie, it's been a week. Why hasn't he left yet? It looks like it's going to heavy rain soon. I glared reproachfully at David Peterson. If you hadn't said anything, we wouldn't have all this trouble afterwards. David Peterson shrugged innocently. My original intention was just to see him look foolish. Besides, I didn't want that woman taking credit for what you did. The heavy rain started suddenly. Robert Sterling seemed oblivious, letting the rain fall on him. I stared at him for a long time, then grabbed an umbrella and prepared to go outside. David Peterson blocked me, his face grim. Are you softening? I shook my head. Some things need to be made clear. Besides, if he faints outside my house, that would be a hassle too. Although David Peterson was reluctant, he still let go of my hand. When Robert Sterling saw me come out, he instantly knelt in front of me. Sophie, you finally came out to see me. Scold me, or even hit me if you want, as long as it makes you feel better, okay? Don't leave me, Sophie. Seeing the man who was always so proud and aloof kneeling before me, his eyes red-rimmed, my heart was a mess of conflicting emotions. Robert Sterling, let's end this. I don't love you anymore. Robert Sterling shook his head. Give me another chance. Sophie, it'll be good to you. Saying that, he quickly pulled out the sapphire blue ring from his pocket and held it up to me. Washed by the heavy rain, the gem looked even brighter. I placed the umbrella beside him. Go back. Letting me go is the best way to make amends. It wasn't until late at night that Robert Sterling finally got up and limped away from my house. A week later, a colleague suddenly called me, buzzing with gossip. Sophia, big news. I don't know what Lily Davis did, but Mr. Sterling actually had her arrested. I heard it was for fraud. Also, Mr. Sterling just bought a new luxury yacht and named it the Sophia. Sophia, does that have anything to do with you? Listening to her chatter on and on, I just smiled calmly. Why would it? Everything about them has nothing to do with me. Ever since I sent Robert Sterling away, David Peterson started coming over to my place even more frequently. One day, he suddenly covered my eyes mysteriously and led me to the car. Everything was dark. I chuckled, teasing him. David Peterson, if I didn't trust you, I'd think you were trying to sell me. David Peterson's voice sounded in my ear. If that's what you think, I guess I can't stop you. When we reached our destination, he carefully led me forward, holding my hand. It wasn't until I heard the sound of a door opening that he removed my blindfold. The sight before me instantly left me speechless. My mother's wedding dress, perfectly preserved, was displayed on a stand in the center of the room. The room was clearly decorated with care, filled with flowers that made the wedding dress look even more sacred. How could this be? My eyes filled with tears, and I turned to look at David Peterson in disbelief. David Peterson smiled, took my hand, and slowly led me towards the center. One time I was at your place and saw you crying over the damaged wedding dress. So I asked your father about its history later. I asked your father if I could borrow the wedding dress, and I started looking for someone to restore it. But the damage was too severe. This is the best I could do to restore it. Saying that, his gaze rested on the wedding dress with a hint of regret. I shook my head, crying uncontrollably. Thank you. Thank you, David Peterson. David Peterson carefully wiped away my tears, then knelt down on one knee and produced a bouquet of flowers from behind his back, holding them out to me. Sophie, will you be my girlfriend? Looking at everything before me, my heart began to race. It wasn't that I didn't know David Peterson's feelings, but thinking about how I treated him years ago, the overwhelming guilt made it hard to breathe. David Peterson seemed like a magic mirror that could see into the depths of my heart. He stood up and gently pulled me into his arms. Don't feel pressured. My loving you is my business. Proposing to you here in front of your mother's wedding dress is also to reassure her that from now on, I'll be here to protect you every step of the way. I buried my face deep in David Peterson's embrace. Holding him tightly, I mumbled back, I will. My voice was small, but David Peterson was as happy as a child. You said yes. No backing out now. I looked up at the wedding dress before me, a warmth spreading through my heart. Mother, David Peterson is the partner you wanted me to find, the one I can spend my life with, right?